Finding my missing daughter was the worst day of my life. My daughter was the most important person in my life, and up until her 18th birthday, she was the most wholesome girl I could ever ask for. We still watched Gilmore Girls every Friday. She still slept with her stuffed bear named Honey she'd had since she was 3. Then came the night she said she was sleeping at her friend Dilly's house to finish college applications. Fine by me. She'd been stressed about essays all week, but the next morning, Dilly's mom called. Ava never showed up. My stomach dropped and I ran to her room. Honey was still on her bed, but her drawers were open, clothes missing. That's when I found it. A printed bus ticket to Miami leaving in 2 hours. I drove to the bus station doing 90. The security guard remembered her immediately. Said she looked nervous, was talking to some older girls by the Miami bus. It was one of those moments no one could prepare you for. But I knew from watching so much true crime that the police probably wouldn't do anything since she was 18. So I called her best friend Laurel. She broke down immediately. Mrs. K? She made me promise not to tell. Laurel was sobbing. She met some guy online, Marco. He said he could get her a modeling job in Miami. I told her it was sketchy. I begged her not to go. I drove straight to Laurel's house. She showed me the texts. Marco saying Ava had the perfect look and sending her a bus ticket. The messages went back 3 weeks. This was my baby girl who still asked if I could take the green leaf out of her strawberries for her. I booked the next flight while sitting in Laurel's driveway. And 4 hours later, I was in Miami International Airport. The main bus station there smelled like vodka and drogs. The employee at the counter remembered Ava right away. That should have been my first warning. Young girl with a teddy bear keychain? He looked genuinely worried. She kept talking about cheap hotels, but those girls with her kept answering for her. Looked like a runaway. They took her passport and phone. That's what they do with the new ones. I wanted to throw up. I asked for the name of the cheap hotels Ava had mentioned. The first 2 I tried didn't mention anyone who looked like Ava. If I knew what I know now, I would have given up on her. I rang the 3rd hotel and described her, and the manager paused. After a minute, she said she saw someone who looked like my Ava crying in the lobby. Apparently, Ava kept sobbing because she owed them for the room. When she tried to use her phone, some girl named Diana grabbed it from her. The bartender of the hotel painted the same picture, except he added that Ava had begged him to use his phone. But Diana stopped her and had the closest Uber pick my up Ava immediately. In hindsight, what Ava was doing was so unforgivable I should have just reported her myself. But I still didn't know. So I spent the next 3 hours outside, flagging down every driver that worked for the hotel. I showed Lynn's photo to every one of them until I found him. He recognized her immediately and whispered like he was scared. She had a black eye under makeup. Kept looking back like someone was following us. The address he went to was a beach house. I later found out that's the worst place Marco could have taken her to. My hands shook typing the address into Google Maps. When I got there, the first thing I noticed was the music. It was so loud I could feel it vibrating in my chest. I crept around to the back windows. That's when I actually saw her. Ava. She was wearing her friendship bracelets from summer camp, doing the same nervous habit of tucking her hair behind her ear, while wearing this tight red dress I'd never seen, and makeup that made her look 25. She was inside with a group of young girls. At first my heart stopped. She looked in danger. Then I watched closer. One girl, maybe 16, was crying in the corner. Ava walked over to her and knelt down. I thought she was helping her. But Ava's hand on the girl's shoulder wasn't comforting. It was firm, controlling. I ran away too, Ava was saying, her voice different, harder. Marco saved me. Trust me, this is better than home. Nobody's looking for you anyway. We're your family now. The girl kept crying. Ava stood up, annoyed, and walked to some men sitting on a white leather couch. They put money in her hand. She counted it like she'd done it 100 times. Walked back and handed bills to each girl, keeping the biggest stack for herself. This wasn't my scared girl. This was someone running an operation. I kept watching as she directed the girls on where to stand. Told one to smile more, and another to stop looking so scared it's obvious. My daughter, my baby who made me burnt pancakes 2 weeks ago, was recruiting and managing girls. That's when I knew her whole innocent thing was a facade. She'd been using it to hide the truth. Using her innocent look as bait. Ava glanced up and saw me through the glass door. She stumbled out, suddenly unsteady. Her red dress catches the porch light as she reaches for the door handle. Her hand shakes so badly she has to grip it with both hands to turn it. Her makeup is smeared down one cheek and her eyes keep darting back toward the men sitting on that white couch inside. She's checking if they're watching her come out here. The door finally opens and she steps onto the porch, wobbling in heels that look too big for her feet. She crosses her arms tight across her chest and puts on this bright smile that doesn't reach her eyes. Her voice comes out cheerful and fake when she says I'm embarrassing her, that I need to leave. She sounds like she's reading lines someone wrote for her, each word too perfect and rehearsed. I reach out to touch her arm, but she jerks backward, keeping space between us. The smile stays frozen on her face, but her eyes look panicked. I try to keep my voice steady and quiet, telling her we need to go right now, that I know what's happening here and we can figure it out together. Her face changes completely, the fake smile dropping away. She says I'm being controlling like always, that she's 18 and making her own choices, that Marco got her this amazing modeling opportunity, and I'm trying to ruin it. Every single word sounds like something someone taught her to say. Through the glass door behind her, I see Daniel Quigley stand up from the couch. He's looking right at us. Ava notices him moving and her whole body goes stiff. She leans in close and whispers fast that I need to go before they come out here. That she'll be okay, but I'm making everything worse by being here. Her breath smells like alcohol and her pupils are huge. I start backing away toward my rental car with my phone already out and recording. My hands shake so badly the video comes out all shaky, but I get clear shots of the house number on the mailbox and the license plates of 3 cars in the driveway. I film the front entrance and the upstairs balcony where more girls are visible through the windows. Once I'm in the car with the doors locked, I just sit there breathing hard and trying to think. My brain feels like it's moving through mud. I need to call someone, but who? The police won't do anything if she says she wants to be there. I start the car and drive to a gas station 2 blocks away, pulling into the parking lot under the bright lights. My fingers fumble with my phone as I dial 911. The dispatcher answers and I try to explain what I saw, that my daughter is in a house with men who are trafficking girls. She's polite but firm when she tells me that since Ava is 18 and said she doesn't want to leave, they can't force her to come with me. She logs the address for a welfare check and warns me the officers probably won't be able to do much tonight. I want to scream at her that my baby is in danger, but I just say thank you and hang up. I drive back to the street near the beach house and park where I can still see the front door. About 20 minutes later, 2 police cars pull up with their lights off. The officers knock on the door and someone lets them inside. I watch the lit windows, counting the minutes. 5 minutes pass and the officers come back out, get in their cars, and drive away. The house goes back to normal like nothing happened. Music still thumping, lights still on, girls still visible in the windows. My phone rings and Laurel's name pops up. I answer and she's asking if I found Ava, if she's okay. I tell her everything I saw through that window, my voice breaking as I describe Ava managing those other girls. Laurel starts crying and saying she should have told me sooner. I cut her off and tell her to stop blaming herself, that I need her to forward every single message she has from Marco or Ava about this Miami trip right now. She says okay through her tears and hangs up. Within minutes, my phone starts buzzing with screenshots coming through. I spend the next hour sitting in the rental car forwarding everything to my personal email. Every text from Marco promising Ava modeling jobs and telling her she has the perfect look. Every bus ticket confirmation. Every message where Ava sounded excited about her new opportunity. I create a shared drive folder and organize everything by date, adding notes about what I witnessed tonight and who I talked to. My phone battery is down to 15% when I finish. I search for the National Trafficking Hotline number and call from a blocked number to make an anonymous tip. The woman who answers sounds experienced, not shocked by anything I'm saying. I give her the beach house address and describe what I saw through the window. I mention the young girls who looked underage, the way Ava was managing them, the men on the couch handing over money. She asks specific questions about how many girls I saw and whether anyone appeared injured. I answer everything I can remember, my voice shaking the whole time. She thanks me and says they'll pass the information to local authorities. After I hang up, I just sit there in the dark car, watching that house and wondering what happens next. I pull out my phone and open a new text to Ava's number, my fingers shaking as I type. Can we meet tomorrow morning? Just coffee, somewhere public near where you're staying. I love you, and I just want to talk. I hit send and stare at the screen for a minute before starting the car and driving back toward the gas station where I made the 911 call earlier. I park under the bright lights and wait, checking my phone every few seconds even though I know she probably won't answer right away. 2 hours pass and I'm about to give up when my phone buzzes with her response. The message doesn't sound anything like her usual texts with the heart emojis and the way she always types lol, even when nothing's funny. This one is cold and formal. I'm busy building my career. Please respect my boundaries and stop trying to control my life. I read it 5 times looking for any hint of my daughter in those words, any sign that she's the girl who still watched Gilmore Girls with me last month. I try to text back, but my hands are shaking too much to type anything that makes sense. So I just lock my phone and sit there feeling like someone punched me in the stomach. I can't bring myself to get a hotel room because what if something happens at the beach house and I'm not there to see it? I drive back to the street where I can still see the front door and park in the same spot as before. The neighborhood is quiet now, just a few porch lights on, and the sound of the ocean a few blocks away. I recline the seat as far as it goes and try to get comfortable, but the rental car wasn't made for sleeping and my legs don't fit right. I keep staring at the beach house through the windshield, watching the lights in the upstairs windows and wondering which room is Ava's. Around midnight, the music finally stops and most of the lights go off except for one window on the second floor. I check all the car doors twice to make sure they're locked and clutch my phone in my hand in case Ava texts again. I must doze off around 3 in the morning because the next thing I know, the sun is coming through the windshield and making my eyes hurt. My neck is killing me from the weird angle I slept at and my back feels like someone beat it with a stick. I sit up slowly and check my phone, but there's nothing from Ava, just some spam texts about car warranties. I pull out my notes app and start writing down everyone I see coming and going from the house. At 8, a white van pulls up with Sparkle Clean Services written on the side, and 2 women in matching shirts go inside with cleaning supplies. They're in there for about an hour, and when they come out, one of them is on her phone laughing about something. Around 9:30, a delivery truck drops off 3 big boxes on the front porch and drives away without knocking. Then at 9:45, an Uber pulls up and 3 girls come out the front door together. They're all wearing tight dresses and heels even though it's barely 10 in the morning. I grab my phone and zoom in to take pictures, but none of them are Ava. They get in the Uber and it drives off toward the main road. I write down the time and the Uber's license plate number in my notes. By 11, my legs are cramping from sitting in the car so long and I need to move around. I get out and stretch, trying to look casual like I'm just some random person out for a walk. A man comes down the sidewalk with a small brown dog on a leash, and I see my chance. I walk toward him with what I hope is a friendly smile and ask if he lives around here. He nods and keeps walking, but I catch up and point toward the beach house. Do you know anything about that place? I'm trying to find my daughter and I think she might be staying there. The man stops and looks at me for a long moment, then glances at the house and back at me. His voice is quiet when he finally speaks. You should be careful asking questions around here. Then he pulls his dog's leash and walks away much faster than before, practically jogging down the sidewalk. My stomach drops watching him go because that warning tells me everything I need to know about how bad this situation really is. I get back in the car and pull up the Miami Police Department number on my phone. The woman who answers sounds bored and transfers me to someone else who transfers me again before I finally reach a voicemail for the detective unit. I wait for the beep and then explain everything as clearly as I can. My name is Kelly Marks, and my 18-year-old daughter is being held at a suspected trafficking house. I have video evidence of her managing other girls, and I can send you the address and everything I've documented. Please call me back. I leave my number and hang up, then just sit there hoping someone actually listens to that message. I need coffee and Wi-Fi to organize my thoughts better, so I drive around until I find a coffee shop about 10 minutes away. I order a large black coffee and ask for the Wi-Fi password, then sit at a corner table and open my laptop. For the next 2 hours, I write out everything that's happened from the moment Dilly's mom called to tell me Ava never showed up. I include every single detail I can remember about the bus station employee, the hotel manager, and bartender, the Uber driver who took her to the beach house, what I saw through the window, the police welfare check, Laurel's messages, the anonymous tip I called in. I write about the money I saw Ava counting and how she managed those other girls like she'd been doing it forever. When I'm done, the document is 12 pages long. I save it to my cloud drive and email it to myself with the subject line, Ava timeline do not delete, in case something happens to my laptop. Around 2 in the afternoon, I drive past the beach house one more time, and that's when I see her. Ava is standing on the upstairs balcony with Scarlett and 2 other girls I don't recognize. She's gesturing with her hands while she talks, and the other girls are leaning in, listening to every word like she's teaching them something. I slow down the car, and for just a second, our eyes meet across the distance. My heart jumps, thinking maybe she'll wave or give me some sign, but instead she immediately looks away and walks back inside like I'm nobody. That rejection stings worse than anything she said in that cold text message this morning. I keep driving and pull over 2 blocks away because my hands are shaking too much to keep steering. My phone rings and I nearly drop it trying to answer. The caller ID says Hobbs D, and I don't recognize the number, but I answer anyway. A man's voice asks if this is Kelly Marks, and when I say yes, he introduces himself as Detective Donovan Hobbs. He says he got my voicemail and asks if I can meet him at a coffee shop in 30 minutes, then warns me not to go back to the beach house before we talk. I tell him yes, and he gives me the address of a place called Java Junction downtown. When I get there, 25 minutes later, I find him already waiting in a corner booth. He's wearing jeans and a regular button-down shirt. Nothing that says cop except maybe the way he sits with his back to the wall watching the door. He stands up when I approach and shakes my hand with a firm grip. I've been working trafficking cases for 8 years, he says as we sit down. Tell me everything. I pull out my phone and show him the videos I took through the glass door at the beach house. He watches the one of Ava managing the other girls 3 times, stopping it to zoom in on faces and taking notes on his tablet. Then I show him all the screenshots Laurel forwarded from Marco, the timeline document I wrote this morning, and the photos of license plates I got from the driveway. Donovan studies everything carefully and asks questions about specific details like what time I saw certain people and whether I recognized any of the men on the couch. After about 20 minutes, he sets down his tablet and looks at me seriously. What you filmed shows clear indicators of trafficking dynamics. Your documentation is going to be valuable for building a case. I feel a tiny bit of relief hearing that, like maybe I did something right. But then Donovan explains that I can't make any more direct contact with Ava because it could put her in danger or mess up their investigation. He says the traffickers might hurt her or move her somewhere else if they think she's talking to me. He pulls out a business card and writes a name and number on the back. This is Samara Ruiz. She's an advocate from a local organization that helps trafficking victims. She'll explain the process better than I can, and she'll be your main contact going forward. You need to let the professionals handle this from now on, okay? I take the card and nod, even though everything in me wants to drive back to that house and drag Ava out myself. But I know he's right, and I know I can't save her alone. I drive to Samara's office and find the building in a strip mall next to a dollar store. The waiting room has worn couches and a coffee maker that looks like it's been there since the 90s. Samara comes out to meet me, and she's younger than I expected, maybe early 30s, with her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She takes me to a small office and hands me a mug of tea that I don't drink. The tissues sit on her desk in a box with cartoon flowers on it. She pulls out a yellow legal pad and starts explaining how traffickers work. They promise things like modeling jobs or money or love. Then they use threats and fear to keep control. Sometimes they hurt the girls. Sometimes they convince them that this life is better than going home. She says victims often end up recruiting others because that's how they survive in the system. It's a strategy to stay valuable so they don't get hurt as badly. When she tells me Ava might be both in danger and actively harming other girls, I feel sick. But I watched Ava count that money and manage those younger girls like she'd been doing it forever. I know it's true even though I don't want to accept it. Samara slides a stack of papers across the desk and explains these are release forms. They let her organization share information with police and other agencies that might help Ava. I sign everywhere she points without reading the fine print. She opens a manila folder and writes Ava's name on the tab. Then she makes copies of all my videos and screenshots and the timeline document I wrote. She adds everything to the folder and explains this creates an official record. If Ava ever cooperates with authorities, this paper trail could help her case. For the first time since I got on that plane to Miami, I feel like I'm doing something that might actually matter instead of just running around in a panic. Samara asks if I can get Laurel to record a voice memo explaining exactly how Marco first contacted Ava. She wants details about what he said and how he made Ava trust him. I text Laurel right there in the office asking her to record everything she remembers. Laurel replies saying she'll do it tonight after her parents go to bed. That evening my phone buzzes with a voice memo from Laurel. I'm sitting in my hotel room with the curtains closed, and I put in my earbuds to listen. Laurel's voice shakes as she describes how Marco found Ava through Instagram 3 months ago. He commented on a photo saying Ava had perfect bone structure. Then he sent her a DM explaining he worked for a modeling agency in Miami. He told her she had real potential and that he'd helped launch careers for girls who looked just like her. Laurel says Marco sent Ava photos of other models he supposedly represented. The pictures showed girls on runways and in magazines. He complimented everything about Ava. Her smile, her style, her personality. He made her feel special and talented in ways nobody else did. Then he started asking about her home life. When Ava mentioned stress about college applications and feeling pressure from me, Marco told her she didn't need college. He said modeling could be her career and she could make real money right away. Laurel describes how Marco gradually stopped Ava from talking to friends who questioned his story. He told Ava that people who didn't support her dreams weren't real friends. He said her family didn't understand her potential. By the time he sent the bus ticket, Ava was completely convinced this was her chance at a better life. Listening to the 10-minute recording makes me understand how carefully Marco planned every step. He didn't just trick Ava. He studied her and found every weakness and exploited it perfectly. I save the recording and send it to Samara. My phone buzzes with a text from Donovan asking for the names and contact information of the hotel manager and bartender who saw Ava. I scroll through my notes and find their details. The manager's name was Rita, and the bartender was called James. I send Donovan their names along with the hotel address and phone number. He texts back within minutes saying he's requesting their security camera footage from the day Ava was there. He explains that having witness statements will strengthen the probable cause for getting warrants. Every piece of evidence makes the case more solid. I feel a small surge of hope reading his message because it means things are actually moving forward through official channels. The next morning, Samara texts me saying she connected with Ruben Johns, and he agreed to meet me. She sends me his number and the address of a park near the beach. I drive there and find Ruben sitting on a bench near the playground. He's younger than I expected, maybe mid-20s, wearing a delivery app shirt and sneakers. He keeps looking around like he's worried someone followed him here. When I sit down next to him, he slides his phone across the bench toward me. The screen shows a screenshot from his driver app with the trip details from the night he took Ava to the beach house. The pickup location, the drop-off address, the timestamp, everything documented. Ruben tells me Ava had a black eye that she tried to cover with makeup. He noticed because the light in his car caught it wrong and he could see the purple underneath the concealer. He says she kept looking out the back window during the whole ride like someone was following them. She seemed scared and jumpy. When they got to the beach house, a woman came out to meet the car before Ava could even unbuckle her seatbelt. The woman opened the door and practically pulled Ava out. Ruben says he thought about reporting it, but he wasn't sure what to report or if anything illegal was actually happening. Hearing him describe these details makes everything feel more real and more terrifying. This isn't just my imagination or mother's paranoia. Multiple people saw Ava in danger and knew something was wrong. I thank Ruben for being willing to help, and he nods but doesn't look at me. He gets up and walks back to his car quickly. That evening, Samara calls me while I'm eating takeout in my hotel room. She suggests setting up a code phrase with Ava in case she ever reaches out but can't speak freely. Something that would sound normal in regular conversation, but that only Ava and I would recognize as a call for help. Samara says traffickers monitor communications carefully, so the phrase needs to be subtle. I think about it for a minute and decide on asking about Honey, Ava's stuffed bear. We'd naturally talk about childhood comfort items, and it wouldn't seem suspicious to anyone listening. But Ava would know that me bringing up Honey meant I was ready to help her get out. Samara agrees it's a good choice and tells me to use it if Ava ever makes contact. The next morning, Donovan calls with an update. He ran property records on the beach house and discovered it's owned by a shell company registered in Delaware. He explains this is typical for trafficking operations because it makes ownership harder to trace. The company has no real business address, and the registered agent is just a legal service. He says he's bringing the case to a larger task force because this is bigger than one detective can handle. They need resources for surveillance and coordination across multiple jurisdictions. Hearing that more people are getting involved makes me feel like we're building something substantial, instead of just me flailing around trying to save Ava alone. My phone rings that afternoon and the caller ID shows a number I don't recognize. A woman introduces herself as Talia Peck, an assistant state attorney reviewing the case. Her voice is professional and direct. She doesn't waste time with pleasantries. She explains that getting warrants requires meeting specific legal standards. Even with my video footage, they need more evidence to prove trafficking versus consensual sex work. The law sees Ava as an adult making her own choices unless they can demonstrate coercion and control. Talia says they're building the case carefully, but I should understand it's complicated and might take time. Her honesty is hard to hear, but I appreciate that she's not giving me false hope or making promises she can't keep. She tells me to keep documenting everything and to let Donovan know about any new contact with Ava. I open my laptop and log into Ava's bank account using the password I set up when she was 16. The account activity loads and I start scrolling through the transactions. For the past 3 weeks, there are small deposits of $200 or $300 every few days. But before that, going back about a month, there are desperate ATM withdrawals and overdraft fees. The pattern shows exactly when Marco's promises turned into control. At first, Ava was spending her own money trying to get to Miami and survive. Then suddenly the deposits started appearing like clockwork. I screenshot every transaction and the account summary page. I send everything to Donovan with a message explaining what the pattern shows. He replies immediately saying this is exactly the kind of financial evidence they need to demonstrate exploitation. I close the laptop and sit there staring at the wall, thinking about how every piece of this puzzle makes Ava's situation more clear and more horrible at the same time. The next morning, Donovan calls and explains his plan for a recorded call to the beach house. He tells me to use a pretext about being a worried parent looking for my daughter. He sets up the recording equipment on his end and dials the number while I sit in my hotel room with my phone on speaker. A woman answers after 3 rings and her voice sounds flat and practiced. I ask if I can speak with Ava and give her full name. The woman responds that there's no one there by that name. I push a little, saying I have information that my daughter is staying at this address. The woman cuts me off and says I have the wrong house before hanging up. The whole call lasts maybe 40 seconds. Donovan comes back on the line and tells me the stonewalling is typical, but that having the recorded refusal establishes they're actively hiding Ava's presence. He says this kind of evidence helps show a pattern of concealment that supports trafficking indicators. That afternoon, Samara calls and invites me to a support group that meets at her organization's office. She says being around other families who understand might help me feel less alone. I drive to the address she gave me and find a small conference room with 8 other parents sitting in a circle. Samara introduces me to the group, and I take an empty chair between 2 mothers who both look exhausted. For the first hour, I mostly just listen to their stories. One mother describes searching for her daughter for 2 years and following leads across 3 states. Another talks about finally getting her son back, but he won't speak about what happened and barely makes eye contact anymore. A father explains how his teenage daughter came home after 6 months, but now she has panic attacks whenever someone knocks on the door. Hearing their experiences makes my situation feel both more real and more terrifying. But there's also something comforting about being in a room where nobody tells me I'm overreacting or that Ava made her own choices. These parents get it. They know the difference between running away and being trapped. After the meeting ends, I drive back to my hotel and find a message from Donovan asking me to call him. When I reach him, he says he wants to show me something that might be hard to see but that I need to understand. He sends me a redacted case file from a previous investigation. I open it on my laptop and start reading. The file describes a situation where a parent tried to forcibly remove their daughter from a trafficking house. The traffickers found out who reported them, and they retaliated by moving the girl to another state. Then they beat her badly enough that she ended up in the hospital with broken ribs and a skull fracture. Donovan calls me after I've had time to read it and explains why he's showing me this. He says patience and proper procedure matter, even though every part of me wants to break down that door right now. He tells me that moving too fast or taking the wrong action could get Ava hurt worse or cause them to disappear with her completely. I understand what he's saying, but it doesn't make the waiting any easier. I spend the next few hours going through the video I took at the beach house frame by frame. I'm looking for anything that might help identify the people inside. That's when I notice Daniel has a distinctive tattoo on his forearm. It looks like some kind of compass or geometric design. I screenshot the clearest frame and start searching social media using reverse image searches and Miami location tags. After about 2 hours of scrolling through profiles, I find a match. His page shows photos from Miami clubs and beach parties going back several months. Some of the pictures include other people I recognize from the beach house. I send everything to Donovan with notes about which photos show what. He replies within minutes saying this helps identify one of the traffickers, and that having a name and social media presence gives them more to work with for warrants. The next afternoon, Laurel forwards me a new message she just received from Marco's account. The screenshot shows him sending bus tickets to another girl from Ava's high school named Rosemary. He's using the exact same story about modeling opportunities and saying she has the perfect look. Laurel already warned Rosemary and her parents about what happened to Ava. But seeing Marco actively hunting for new victims while Ava is still trapped makes rage flood through my whole body. I forward the screenshot immediately to both Donovan and Talia, with a message explaining that Marco is still recruiting. Talia responds saying this establishes an ongoing pattern that strengthens their case. Donovan says he'll contact Rosemary's family to get their statement and the message thread. 4 days after I first saw Ava at the beach house, my phone buzzes with a text from her number. My hands start shaking before I even read it. The message says she's fine and that she's been so busy she hasn't had time to even think about Honey or anything from home. She ends with talk soon. I read it 3 times because buried in that normal-sounding message is our code phrase. Mentioning Honey means she needs help but can't say it directly. I sit on my hotel bed staring at the text and trying to calm down enough to respond correctly. I type out exactly what Samara coached me to say. I ask if she wants me to mail honey to her since she must miss her comfort items. I hit send and then wait. 10 minutes later, Ava responds with a location pin to a pharmacy 3 miles from the beach house. My heart pounds so hard I can feel it in my throat. I forward the entire message thread to Donovan and type out a message asking what I should do next. He calls me instead of texting back. Donovan tells me to go to the pharmacy, but to stay calm and not try to convince Ava to leave with me. He explains that plainclothes officers will be watching from nearby locations. He says this is Ava reaching out and we need to let her control how much contact happens. I grab my keys and drive to the pharmacy with my hands shaking on the steering wheel. When I pull into the parking lot, I see 2 unmarked cars already there. I spot the officers inside pretending to shop and look at their phones. I park where I can see the entrance and wait. Every minute feels like an hour. An Uber pulls up and Ava gets out wearing a medical mask and sunglasses. She walks up to my car window and I roll it down. She asks if I have cash and a phone charger. Her eyes keep scanning the parking lot like she's checking if someone followed her. I reach into my purse and pull out $200 and a spare charger. I hand them through the window and start begging her to get in the car. She shakes her head and says she can't leave yet. She looks so tired. There are dark circles under her sunglasses and her hands won't stop moving. Before she walks away, Ava pulls out her phone and shows me photos. The images show bruises on Scarlett's arms and back, purple and yellow marks that look recent. Ava leans closer and whispers that if anything happens to her, I should tell police to check the pool shed behind the beach house. Then she puts the cash in her purse and turns back toward the waiting Uber. I watch her get in and the car drives away. I sit there crying and gripping the steering wheel until one of the plainclothes officers taps on my window to make sure I'm okay. I watch the officer tap on my window and roll it down, my hand still gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles hurt. He leans down and asks if I'm okay to drive back to my hotel. I nod even though I'm not sure that's true. He gives me his card and tells me to call if I need anything, then walks back to his unmarked car. I sit there for another 5 minutes before I can make myself start the engine. The drive back feels like it takes forever, even though it's only 10 minutes. I keep seeing Ava's face when she showed me those photos. The way her eyes kept darting around like someone might jump out at any second. When I get to the hotel, I go straight to my room and call Donovan. He answers on the second ring and tells me one of his officers followed the Uber at a distance. The car didn't go back to the beach house like I expected. Instead, it drove to a condo building about 2 miles away in a different neighborhood. Donovan says he logged the new address, and that this suggests they're moving girls between multiple locations to make them harder to track. He explains that trafficking operations often rotate victims through different properties to avoid detection and keep the girls disoriented. I write down the condo address even though I know he doesn't want me going there. After we hang up, I just sit on the bed staring at my phone. Samara texts me asking if I'm free to meet at a diner near the hotel. I grab my keys and drive over there, grateful to have somewhere to go instead of sitting alone in that room. She's already in a corner booth when I arrive and she orders me coffee without asking. I tell her everything that happened at the pharmacy, how Ava looked so scared but wouldn't get in the car, how she showed me the photos of Scarlett's bruises. Samara listens without interrupting and takes notes on her tablet. When I finish, she sets down her pen and looks at me directly. She explains that Ava asking for money and showing me those photos means she's thinking about exit strategies but isn't ready to leave yet. The fact that Ava reached out at all is a good sign. But Samara warns me that trying to pull her out before she's ready could get her hurt worse or cause the traffickers to disappear with her completely. She says Marco and his people are watching Ava closely, now that they know I'm in Miami looking for her. If they think Ava is becoming a liability, they might move her out of state or hurt her to send a message to the other girls. I hate hearing this, but I know she's right. Everything in me wants to grab Ava and force her into my car, but that could get her killed. Samara tells me the best thing I can do right now is keep building the case with Donovan, so that when Ava is ready to leave, there's a safe place for her to go and legal protection to keep her there. We sit in the diner for another hour going over what evidence we have so far. The next morning, I meet Talia at a coffee shop downtown. She's wearing a suit and carrying a briefcase full of files. We sit outside at a metal table and she spreads papers between us. Talia explains the legal situation more clearly than anyone has so far. If Ava has been recruiting other girls, she could face charges as an accomplice even though she's also a victim. The law doesn't always recognize the difference between someone who's being trafficked and someone who's helping traffickers, especially when that person is 18 and legally an adult. Talia says prosecutors often charge trafficking victims with crimes related to recruiting or managing other victims. But she also tells me there's a diversion program for trafficking victims who cooperate with prosecution. If Ava is willing to testify against Marco and identify other members of the operation, she could enter this program instead of going to jail. The program includes counseling, supervised housing, and regular check-ins with a case manager. If Ava successfully completes it, the charges could be dismissed from her record. This possibility gives me something concrete to hope for, instead of just sitting around waiting. I thank Talia and promise to pass this information along to Ava if I get another chance to see her. Back at the hotel, I called Donovan about the pool shed tip that Ava mentioned. He says he'll arrange for patrol officers to do another welfare check with that specific concern noted in the request. A few hours later, he texts me that officers searched the property, including the shed, but didn't find anything obvious. Donovan explains that the traffickers probably cleaned it out after seeing police there the first time, but he says the tip still goes in the case file as evidence of Ava's knowledge of the operation, which could be useful later if she decides to cooperate. That afternoon, Ruben sends me a message with a video file attached. He explains it's dashcam footage from the night he drove Ava to the beach house. I download it immediately and watch it 3 times. The video clearly shows the woman who came out to meet the car before Ava even got her seatbelt off. It also captures Ava's body language, the way she kept looking over her shoulder and touching her face where the bruise was. I forward the video to Donovan right away. He texts back an hour later saying he sent the stills to a tech unit for enhancement, and that having video from an independent witness strengthens the case significantly. I send Ruben a message thanking him for being brave enough to help, telling him his footage might save Ava's life. He replies saying he hopes she gets out safe. That evening, I'm heating up takeout in the hotel microwave when my phone rings from a blocked number. I almost don't answer, but something makes me pick up. A woman's voice I don't recognize tells me to stop causing problems, or Ava will pay for it. Her tone is flat and cold, like she's reading from a script. Before I can respond, she hangs up. My hands are shaking so badly I drop the phone on the carpet. I pick it up and immediately call Samara. She answers and I tell her about the threat, my voice coming out higher than normal. Samara says I need to file a police report immediately, and to save the call log with the exact timestamp. She offers to meet me at the station, and I accept because I don't want to go alone. We meet in the parking lot and walk in together. Samara helps me file what she calls a protective report at the front desk. We include the blocked call with its exact time and the threatening message word for word. The officer taking the report types everything into his computer and says they'll add it to Donovan's case file. Having an official record makes me feel slightly safer, like there's a paper trail if anything happens to me or Ava. The next morning, Donovan calls while I'm drinking coffee in the hotel lobby. He tells me the task force has decided to target the condo building first, rather than the beach house. He explains they have better probable cause for the condo since an officer witnessed Ava being taken there after our pharmacy meeting. I'm frustrated because I want them to raid everywhere at once, but Donovan says they need solid legal grounds for each warrant, or the whole case could get thrown out. He promises they're moving as fast as they legally can. I tell him I trust that he knows what he's doing, even though waiting is killing me. Later that day, Laurel calls me with another lead. She says she connected with Rosemary Bender, a classmate who received similar messages from Marco last year but didn't respond. Laurel gives me Rosemary's number and I call her immediately. Rosemary agrees to do a recorded interview where she describes Marco's tactics and shares her message thread. We meet at a library and I record her on my phone as she walks through how Marco first contacted her, what promises he made, and how his messages got more pushy when she didn't respond fast enough. Having another witness who can establish Marco's pattern of targeting young girls helps build the case that this isn't just about Ava. It shows he's been doing this for at least a year, probably longer. I send the recording to Donovan and Talia as soon as Rosemary and I finish. That evening, I go back to the support group at Samara's office. This time when we go around the circle and everyone shares, I actually talk instead of just listening. I describe seeing Ava act like 2 completely different people, the scared girl who sent me the code phrase about honey, and the cold recruiter managing other victims at the beach house. The other parents nod in understanding, and one mother explains how trauma and survival instincts can make people do things they'd never normally do. She says her daughter stole from her own family to pay off debts to her trafficker, and it took years of therapy before her daughter could even talk about why. Another parent describes watching their son lie directly to their face while he was controlled. Talking about it out loud helps me process what I'm seeing, instead of just feeling confused and angry all the time. Late that night, I get back to my hotel room and my phone buzzes with a voice message from Ava's number. I press play and her voice comes through the speaker, half crying and half angry at the same time. She says I need to stop involving the police because I'm going to get her killed. She says she chose this life and I need to respect that, but her voice cracks hard on the word chose. The message sounds like someone told her exactly what to say, but the fear underneath is completely real. I listen to it 5 times in a row, sitting on the edge of the hotel bed with my phone pressed against my ear. Each time I hear that crack in her voice when she says chose, I forward the message to Donovan and he calls me back within 10 minutes. He walks me through writing a response text that acknowledges what Ava said without agreeing to stop or making promises I can't keep. I type out the words he suggests, telling her I love her and want her safe and that I'm here whenever she needs me. Having a script to follow keeps me from typing something that could make things worse. I hit send and stare at my phone for 20 minutes waiting for a response that doesn't come. The next afternoon, I open my laptop and start searching for Marco's online presence. I find a website advertising model scouting services connected to his social media handle. The site looks really professional with photos of girls at photo shoots and testimonials that sound fake. I click through every page looking for real company information or a physical address, but there's nothing. Just a contact form and a bunch of stock photos. I take screenshots of everything and send them to Donovan in a long email. He replies an hour later saying it's exactly the kind of front that traffickers use to appear real to parents and victims. That same night, around 11, Donovan calls with news that makes my chest tight. The task force watched the condo building and one girl managed to slip out the back door and flag down officers. They got her to safety and she talked to them for 3 hours. She told them that Ava works as a recruiter who brings in new girls and teaches them the rules. Hearing this from someone who was actually there makes it impossible to deny what Ava's become. I feel proud that someone got out and completely broken about what my daughter is doing to other people. I meet with Samara the next morning at her office and tell her I accept that Ava might face criminal charges. Samara walks me through the diversion program requirements and explains that Ava would need to cooperate with the whole investigation, complete counseling sessions, and stay in a supervised program for at least 6 months. If she does all of that successfully, the charges could be dismissed at the end. Knowing there's an actual path forward helps me focus on supporting Ava through real consequences, instead of trying to protect her from them. Later that day, I get a message from Ruben saying he's willing to testify anonymously if the case goes to trial. He says what happened to Ava could have happened to his younger sister, and he wants to help stop it from happening to anyone else. I forward his message to Donovan, who confirms that having a witness who can describe Ava's condition and the suspicious stuff he saw helps them get warrants. I'm grateful that a complete stranger cares this much about helping. That evening, I sit down at the hotel desk and open a new document on my laptop. I start writing Ava a letter that I'm not going to send yet. I write about all the ways I missed the warning signs and failed to see how much pressure she was under about college and her future. I write about how I should have noticed she was stressed and scared instead of just thinking she was being a normal teenager. But I also write that I can't protect her from consequences anymore, and that real love means supporting her through taking responsibility, not helping her avoid it. Writing everything out helps me understand what I need to say when I actually see her again. The next day, Ava goes completely silent and doesn't respond to any of my texts for 24 hours straight. I send her 3 messages asking if she's okay, and none of them show as read. Donovan says this could mean they moved her to another location, or that the traffickers punished her for meeting me at the pharmacy. I barely sleep that night because I keep imagining all the terrible things that could be happening to her right now. I check my phone every 10 minutes hoping for any kind of response. The following afternoon, Laurel calls me and says she found Ava's friendship bracelet in a photo that a Miami club promoter posted on social media. The photo shows a big party scene with lots of people, and I can just barely see Ava standing in the background near a bar. Laurel sends me the link right away, and I forward it to Donovan immediately along with the location tag from the post. Having a fresh lead makes me feel like we haven't completely lost track of her. Donovan arranges for an undercover officer to go to the club that same night while I wait at my hotel going crazy. He texts me updates every single hour saying the officer is inside the venue and looking for Ava in the crowd. Around midnight, he sends a message confirming the officer spotted her near the back section, but Marco isn't there, just 2 female handlers standing close to her. I pace around my hotel room for the next 2 hours waiting for more news and checking the time on my phone every few minutes. Around 1 a.m., Donovan texts me saying the undercover officer spotted Ava near the back section, but a woman rushed her toward the exit before any contact happened. He sends me 2 blurry photos showing Ava in a black top with her hair pulled back. The images confirm she was there, but the officer couldn't approach without breaking her cover. I text back asking if they're going to follow her, and Donovan replies that they lost visual when the handler pushed Ava into a waiting car. I want to scream because we were so close, but I know the officer couldn't blow her cover just to grab Ava. I save the photos to my phone and stare at them for the next hour, trying to see if Ava looks hurt or scared in the grainy shots. My phone battery drops to 15% from refreshing my messages every 30 seconds hoping for more updates. I plug in the charger and try to sleep sitting up in the hotel chair, but my eyes won't stay closed. At 2 a.m., my phone rings with a Miami area code I don't recognize. I answer on the first ring and hear Ava's voice, but it sounds wrong, slurred and shaky. She's crying and saying she needs me to come get her right now. I can hear cars passing in the background and someone yelling far away. I grab my keys and shoes while asking where she is, but she just keeps saying, "Please, Mom, please come get me." My hands shake so bad I drop my keys twice trying to get them in my pocket. I'm pulling on my shoes when she gives me a cross street near the beach, and I'm already halfway to the door. But then my phone buzzes with another call, and it's Samara calling me back. I answer, and she's talking fast, telling me not to pick Ava up on the street. She explains that I need to direct Ava to the nearest emergency room because hospitals have security and witnesses, and they document everything. I switch back to Ava's call and tell her to get in a cab and go to Miami General Hospital right now. She's crying harder, saying she doesn't have money for a cab, but I tell her the hospital will help her and I'll meet her there in 20 minutes. She hangs up without saying okay, and I'm running to my rental car in the parking garage. I drive to the hospital doing 50 in a 30 zone and park in the emergency lot at a weird angle across 2 spaces. The security guard at the entrance stops me, but I explain my daughter just called and she's coming here and she's hurt. He radios someone and then walks me through to the waiting area, telling me to check with the front desk. I give them Ava's name and description, and the woman behind the glass says a young woman matching that description just arrived by cab. She takes me through a set of locked doors into the ER treatment area. Ava is on a gurney behind a blue curtain hooked up to an IV bag hanging from a metal pole. She has dark bruises on both arms, and her bottom lip is split open with dried blood in the corner. Her eye makeup is smeared down her cheeks, and she's wearing the same black top from the club photos. I sit down in the plastic chair next to her bed, and she reaches for my hand without looking at me. I hold her hand and don't say anything because I don't know what to say that won't make things worse. A nurse comes in to check her IV and tells me they're treating her for dehydration, and they gave her something for pain. Ava's eyes are half closed, but she squeezes my hand when the nurse leaves. I text Donovan that Ava is at Miami General, and he replies that he's on his way. An hour later, Donovan walks into the curtained area wearing jeans and a jacket like he got dressed in a hurry. He asks Ava quietly if she's willing to talk with Samara, and Ava nods without opening her eyes. Donovan looks at me, and I know what he's asking. So I stand up and walk out to the waiting area, even though leaving her makes my chest hurt. Through the window in the door, I can see Samara arrive and go into Ava's area. She sits in the chair I was in and leans close to Ava, talking in a low voice I can't hear. Ava is nodding and sometimes shaking her head, and Samara is writing things down in a small notebook. I watch them talk for 30 minutes and drink terrible coffee from the vending machine just to have something to do with my hands. When the sun starts coming up, Talia shows up in a suit like she came straight from her office. She meets with me and Donovan and Samara in a small conference room near the nurses' station. Talia explains that if Ava cooperates and gives them information about the operation, they can offer her a deal. She describes a cooperation agreement where Ava would go to a safe house instead of jail and help with the investigation. Talia is clear that this isn't a get-out-of-jail-free card, but it gives Ava a chance to help herself and help other victims. I tell Talia that I support whatever Ava decides to do, because this has to be her choice. Samara goes back to talk with Ava and comes out 20 minutes later saying Ava agreed to give a recorded statement. Donovan sets up a laptop and recording equipment in a private room and brings in a victim advocate to sit with Ava during the interview. I wait in the hallway outside the closed door for 2 hours while they talk. When they finally come out, Donovan tells me Ava named several venues where girls are taken and described the rotation schedule between locations. She gave first names of handlers and recruiters, but she wouldn't talk about Marco directly yet because she's still too scared. Donovan says what she gave them is enough to move forward with warrants and rescue operations. I ask if I can take Ava home, but Samara shakes her head and explains that Ava needs to go to a safe house run by her organization. She says Ava needs structured support and distance from her old life, while she processes everything that happened. Samara gives me a list of visitation rules and tells me I can't know the exact address for security reasons. Watching them take Ava out to a van in the hospital parking lot is one of the hardest things I've ever done, but I know it's what she needs. That same afternoon, Ruben sends Donovan his formal written statement along with the dashcam footage file from the night he drove Ava. Donovan texts me that he's filing for search warrants connected to Daniel based on the tattoo identification and the condo building where officers saw Ava taken. Things are finally moving forward in ways that feel official and real instead of just me chasing leads. 2 days later, Talia calls my cell phone and says she secured a conditional agreement for Ava. She explains that if Ava successfully completes an 18-month program with counseling and education and supervised living, the charges will be held and possibly dismissed. If Ava breaks the rules or refuses to cooperate further, she'll face prosecution for her role in recruiting. I sit down on my hotel bed and cry because there's finally a real path forward that doesn't end with Ava in prison or dead. Samara calls me the next morning and gives me the address for my first visit with Ava. The safe house is in a quiet neighborhood with tall fences and security cameras on every corner. I park on the street and walk up to the front door carrying the keychain I bought last week. It has a photo of Honey the Bear printed on clear plastic. A staff member named Lovely lets me inside and leads me down a hallway to a small meeting room with 2 chairs and a table. She tells me I have 30 minutes and that she'll be sitting right outside the door. Ava walks in 5 minutes later wearing sweatpants and a hoodie I've never seen before. Her hair is pulled back in a messy bun and she has dark circles under her eyes. We sit down across from each other and neither of us talks for a while. I reach into my pocket and pull out the keychain. I slide it across the table toward her. Ava picks it up and stares at Honey's face on the plastic. Her hands start shaking and then she's crying. Really crying. Not the fake tears I saw at the beach house. I reach across and hold her hand. She squeezes back hard like she's afraid I'll let go. We sit like that for most of the visit, just holding hands while she cries, and I try not to cry too. It's not the reunion I imagined when I first got on that plane to Miami, but it's real and she's safe, and that's what matters right now. 3 weeks go by and I settle into a routine of visiting Ava twice a week and going to Samara's support group every Thursday night. Then Donovan calls me on a Tuesday afternoon. He tells me they arrested Daniel at the condo building early that morning, but when they executed the warrant on the beach house, it was completely empty. Someone tipped them off and they cleared out everything. Marco isn't in custody, and Donovan thinks he probably left Florida as soon as he heard police were asking questions. I feel disappointed that there isn't complete justice, that Marco is still out there somewhere. But I also know Ava is alive and getting real help. I keep going to the support group every week because this journey isn't over. We're just at the beginning of a very long road. Ava starts her 18-month program next month, and I'll be there for every single visit they allow, supporting her through whatever comes next.